In your opinion, what are the key skills and competencies that leaders should possess to create a thriving organizational culture?
So I think that there's a long list of things that we should have as leaders. And I think sometimes that long list can get overwhelming to people. I was extremely lucky that I worked for a company who had an amazing culture. And they also, in that, encouraged, more of a servant type leadership. And that's really where they came from and what, taught their leaders to be. And so I had a really great, of learning that type of leadership. But for me, the most important things, communication being number one. I think that communication is so important in that as a leader, you have got to learn how to communicate with many different people, and you have to be able to adjust your communication to those people. I think it's always interesting to me how people throw a message out there and then they're frustrated because nobody's listening to them. And I feel like it is our responsibility to adjust that message. If I want somebody to hear what I'm saying, I have to make sure that they are able to hear what I'm saying. And so adjusting that message to all of these different people on my team, that's really important to me. Another one is influence. I think that it is really important for our leaders to understand how to influence people. And this isn't necessarily, how to trick people into believing what you want them to believe, but it's influencing people to get the things done that you need to get done, and trying to help them understand what is the impact of what it is that you're going to be accomplishing. So I think that that's a really great skill. The other one is around feedback. I think that you have got to be able to have a relationship with the people that you're leading, that there is feedback coming back and forth. I am not a fan of saying negative and positive feedback. I like to frame it as supportive and corrective feedback.
Nice.
I think negative and positive gets kind of yucky feeling, and I don't think there's one person in the world that likes to hear negative feedback because it starts with the word negative. And so I reframe that as corrective. I learned that from my dad. My dad was a farmer, and for 50 years, he owned a farm and he was a farmer. And my dad could tell anyone anything. He could give them any type of feedback, and they would turn around and they would thank him for it because of the approach that he took. Because people always knew that he genuinely cared about how they were doing and how they were performing. And he came at that from that place of genuine care. And so that's something that I adopted that I feel like is so important, is if you are going to provide somebody feedback, it should never leave them feeling in despair. It should leave them feeling energized to want to go and apply whatever feedback you've just shared with them. I could go on and on, but I think a couple others, coaching, you've got to have that ability to be able to be a coach. I'm super into sports. I love to watch sports, especially college football. It's one of my very favorites. I watch that with my husband. And if you ever watch those coaches, they're not standing on the sidelines just demure and quiet. In most, sports, you watch soccer, you watch basketball, those coaches aren't just sitting there, with their hands underneath. They are up there and they are yelling and they're screaming and they're, letting the players know what's happening, and they're advocating for the players with the referees, and they are up there and they are active. And so that to me is a really great leadership quality. You need to be running along the sidelines with your players and giving them that feedback in the moment and helping them and encouraging them and cheering for them when things go well, and also calling them out when they do something that doesn't work out. So
I love that.
I think that's a really good one too. Those
So,
are just mine.
okay, a couple things come to mind. First of all, your father was a leadership and EQ genius. And in a sense, you're damn lucky that you had it, because it's like farmer. It's not the top person I think of as somebody who would be great for giving feedback. But to quote Ed Catmull, I have this top of mind because I just did a video on it. It was like, inspiration can and does come from anywhere.
Yep.
He updated his book Creativity Inc. and he talked about that gist. It was like, don't be so arrogant as to think that the person who arrived today, who might have been in high school yesterday, couldn't have an idea. Let's hear that idea first and then determine whether it has any value. And if it doesn't, again, you can give them supportive or corrective feedback. And I'm going to steal that from you and your dad because I
Awesome.
love it that much. And I sort of do the same thing in my own head. Like, I've had a lot of feedback on my videos, which are doing terrible for whatever reason. And I don't have to like it, but the bottom line is there's something I need to do differently. Otherwise, I would see different results. So it's been, sometimes I don't like to hear what it is, but I'm actually grateful and happy to hear it, because it's like, finally, somebody will tell me the hard truth that nobody does, because they're worried about hurting my feelings. Like, hurt my all you want. You don't have to if you do it well.
Yes.
But I would rather you leave me in a puddle of tears, which is damn near impossible, than to tell me I'm great and give me a high five for getting that 8th place trophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is actually a harmful thing to people, not a good thing.
And Tim, isn't that amazing? The person who took the time to actually care enough about your video to provide you that feedback, that means something. We're all so busy. We're all out there going, going, going. And so if somebody took some time to watch your video and then, analyze it and then give you feedback around it, that means something. And yeah, sometimes it can be hard to hear because, we're all trying and doing our best and we're hoping that we're putting out the best product. But of course, you're just learning and you're just, this is something that you're going through and you're not going to do it perfect. And so, so value that somebody took that time to give
I
you.
do. In fact, I would say I probably wouldn't be overstating it. I say nothing is everything, and that's true, right? Like, somebody says, oh, mindset is everything. It's crucial, but it's far from everything. But as close as I can say that, somebody taking that time does mean pretty damn close to everything to me. And when we're talking about culture building, this loops back into that really powerfully. It was like, I can tell you about a man who is probably now deceased, because the last time I saw them, they were already an adult and I was still a teenager. But the reason I know the name Dennis Sosnowski, my grade 5 teacher, is because for no reason at all, he came from the school where he was teaching, River Glen in Red Deer, which is like a junior high school. He came over to Lindsay Thurber Composite High School to watch me do long jump in the county track meet. And I remember that today. And this was, this was 40 years ago. And I remember that event fondly. So talk about culture building. When somebody takes the time to give a crap about something when nobody else is watching. And for him, it might not have meant that much. It's like, oh, Tim's here, I'm going to go check it out. But it really doesn't matter, because like I said, 40 years later, that's still an exceptional experience. And an experience like that in the workplace from your boss or any leader, it's like, now you have love for them that they'll be talking about 40 years later because of a tiny gesture. Even if it took 5 seconds to say, well, maybe you should just lower your voice or slow down your speaking cadence when you're saying that, because it's upsetting people when you talk like that.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So, and the other thing that comes to my brain when you say that is the self-help industry. That is the unethical version, which is, as far as I'm concerned, most of it. basically wants to put out the message, you're broken, pay me and I can fix you.
Yeah.
Versus I love alliteration. So to me, it's like progress, not perfection. We're imperfect, not broken.
Yeah. I love that.
So the next one, and thank you, because I don't agree with people for the sake of agreeing. I think that's sort of insulting, disrespectful, and disingenuous. I'm, as you might have guessed, kind of a straightforward person.
I like it.
So when I say I agree with you, I actually mean it. And
Well,
I know, unfortunately, in the world we live in, people go, yeah, but everybody says everybody's awesome all the time. And unfortunately, that's true. Do you remember The Incredibles?
Yes. The cartoon?
Yes. Do you remember what Dashiell said? That is the son Dash, when his mom says, "Oh, but something about him being special." I don't remember the exact thing. Do you remember his reply?
I don't know that I remember it specifically.
I love this, and it could be wrong, but the essence is there is like, Mom saying everybody is special is the same as saying nobody is special.
Yes, that's so true.
It is, and we rob people, and I'm talking personally, not just in the leadership context. If people who say everything you do is awesome, even young children, I teach children as young as 2 years old. Well, quite quickly, you're full of crap when everything they do is high five worthy or dance worthy or singing or clapping worthy. They learn immediately. It's just part of our fundamental neurological nature. If that becomes the always thing, it loses impact.
Yes.
I used to use a laser with these youngest kids, right? So they're like zero learners. They know no English. So I teach English here still. And it was like, okay, you can't touch them, which is usually good because you can high five. All these rules because of COVID. And it was like, I'm going to invent something which I came to call the laser touch. I stand in front of them and I look at them, and they understand through the same sequence happening every single class, that they have to say, I'm here, because saying their names they've done. So it's like, I'm here, because they had trouble saying, they just say, I'm here. We got to do better. But even a 2-year-old understands, if you're consistent with your reinforcement or your positive feedback, when it's true, that they understand that no effort equals no laser touch. So I'd point the laser at the floor after they tried, pass or fail, because there's no real fail, right? So it's just like, if they tried at their level, everyone is like, if for them that was success, which is individual, as you pointed out, if they gave me anything equivalent to the best I've seen before, or what's real effort for them, or any more, they absolutely got that laser. And if they just sort of looked away, like, I'm owed that laser, put that here right now.
Yeah.
It didn't even matter that they were 2 years old. It didn't matter to me if the other support teachers thought I was mean for not giving it to them. I was like, you get rewarded for trying. I don't care how old you are. And they not only loved me, but they all understood no try, no fun or reward for not trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So false praise it makes everything you say. I was like, yeah, you always say that. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next one is, would you define